Hello, everybody, and welcome to Ladies of the PGS. I am your host, and of course, we have with us today Lorena Creole. Lorena, how are you today?
Well, I am doing great, doing wonderful, and as always, glad to be here on Ladies of the PGS here on the Burnettwork and with our amazing viewers.
Absolutely, guys. Lorena, it is always wonderful to have you here, and there is so much to talk about. So much is going on.
Mhm.
I know with the way things have kind of been greatly affected by this writer's strike. You and I have been talking about this writer's strike and everything that goes along with it. It certainly is unfortunate that the last time we spoke, the strike was not on. It was in anticipation that the strike might be happening, but they didn't make the deadline. Excuse me. They didn't make the deadline. So unfortunately, it's almost a full week of this writer's strike. Lorena, this couldn't be happening at a worse time.
Oh, absolutely. It's the middle of the summer, and Hollywood, I say Hollywood collectively, has just gotten the machine back up and cranking out, entertainment. Now it's basically slowed down again, and it's very unfortunate, so it is definitely a problem. It's kind of like being back to square one.
It does feel that way, and you're right. Now that kind of these alerts and things from the lockdown have all disappeared, then we get something that's just throwing a wrench in the delicate machine of how things were going. And to make matters worse, I mean, one of the things that you and I were talking about was this AI situation, but it's also combated with the fact that a lot of these shows that these writers were on didn't have great ratings, Lorena. I mean, the whole the whole way writers make their money is that they do fantastic work, and then
Hmm.
you get sponsors who either pay or they're great ratings, and then that pays off well. But that really hasn't been the case for a lot of these shows, and I'm kind of concerned they're going to take that into account in these negotiations, Lorena. So this is going to be an uphill battle, I think, for these writers, unfortunately. And of course, we're going to see what happens, but it's been a week, and as far as I know, nothing's really major happened other than seeing actors on the picket line. It's really
Hmm.
kind of hard to see that. You and I both talked about how it has an effect going down the line and how other
Hmm.
groups are affected, and it is a domino effect. It's a big deal. It's almost like things can be ground to a halt. And one of the things we were talking about, of course, was Blade, which was set to film, I think, pretty soon, is going to be delayed. And it's unfortunate. It looked like it had already undergone so many delays, Lorena. Um,
Hmm.
over the past few years, it's not a surprise that there were delays. We had the lockdown, there were all these other factors that played into this, but it
Right.
really is unfortunate, because this could have been something that was pretty cool. Here it says they have to pause it due to the writer's strike. And it says the studio, whose creative process involves rewrites and experimentation on set,
Hmm.
is still gearing up to shoot Deadpool 3 and Thunderbolts. But you and I both know that these writers have to be there whenever they need a rewrite or something has to be rewritten or it
That
doesn't
is
work.
correct.
They have to be there, and they'll say, hey, writers, can you please fix this, or can you add this in, or and there literally is a person who's physically there a lot of times who will go ahead and type up or amend something and then give it in, and they'll have that copy, and they'll be able to use it. But it is unfortunate that this is happening. There's a picture of Mahershala Ali here,
Hmm.
who stars in it, and of course, they say a bite was taken out of Blade, but honestly, Blade has kind of unfortunately been delayed quite a lot. Um,
Yes.
I kind of think it's interesting. Mahershala Ali has two Academy Awards. He got one for I think it's Moonlight, right? And the second one, I think, was one where he played a musician. But he got two Academy Awards, one year right after the other. Very unique, very unusual.
Hmm.
At a time when diversity was not being pushed, It wasn't being pushed. Moonlight was this fantastic film that came out, and it was astoundingly good. Um, so I think it is very interesting that unfortunately a project that he's working on, such a fantastic actor, should be delayed. Here they're saying, it's not a surprise. It's not the only show that's being delayed. But Lorena, this is going to have a huge effect on a lot of things. In your opinion, do you think this is going to be resolved quickly, or do you think that the demands that the WGA is making are something that's impossible to meet?
Those are very interesting questions. I can definitely say this strike is not going to be resolved anytime soon. It's 2023, not 2007. In 2023, now we have, streaming on demand. There's just so many other additional entertainment choices. And in addition to that, a lot of overseas entertainment that we have access to. So I don't really see an economic reason right now for this strike to be resolved quickly. It isn't as if there's only one, uh, we'll say, one vector of delivery for entertainment. There's more now. If you're restricted to just a few, okay, that's like, all right, we really need to get this resolved so we can get things running. But now it's like, I can just pull something up on streaming. Or if you're just like, I really haven't seen that much of a great quality, and the shows I do like, they've wrapped up, and I can just go back and watch them, on demand. I don't have to wait for them to come out on cable. I don't have to wait for the reruns to happen. So definitely, unfortunately, not a swift resolution to this. And the studios really right now do not have an incentive to come through the table and negotiate. There's stuff that's either about to wrap up shooting, or they've got plenty of things that they're sitting on right now, including streaming. And streaming is something that has, and it's true, disrupted the traditional Hollywood model. So haven't worked that out yet. So no, not unfortunately, not a swift resolution. I've been hearing probably 6 months before there's any kind of movement. And right now, the studios are the ones, unfortunately, with the power. The studios have the power. The consumers, in a way, have the power because it's just there's no, how would I put it? There isn't this massive demand right now because consumers are like, I can just go someplace else and get it. And it's sad, but that's the situation that it is right now. So those picket lines are going to be going on for quite some time. So it's going to be a long haul.
Absolutely. And both you and I know, and I'm sure all the viewers know, there is oversaturation of things to watch. I mean,
Oh
there's
yeah.
lot of shows, just even let's say that are produced by studios here in the United States, and then as you said, overseas, it's even more. Maybe they even do produce more shows than we do, so you could just indulge yourself and watch into perpetuity, never even turn on another let's say English language film. You can
Hmm.
enjoy these foreign language films, and you could enjoy them for perpetuity for the rest of your life. There are so many, Lorena, that could keep you satiated on every category under the sun. So, it is very interesting to see that it's. I think there's the niche of providing specific types of entertainment isn't necessarily only from one particular region. You can go to any region now and see that. So it is
Hmm.
something to think about. And Lorena, you're right. I mean, I know you talked about your Nigerian soap operas.
Oh
Um,
yes. Nigerian movies, K dramas,
yes,
anime, that's another one.
are indeed
Anime, especially
yes.
when you have channels like Crunchyroll or even Hulu, which will eventually get
Yes.
the English subtitle version of anime, and the catalogs are just, are just huge.
And of course, you and I extensively on your channel have been watching Indian movies, things like RRR,
Yes.
and Brahmastra Part One, showing the variety and the ability of Indian studios just to knock it out of the ballpark. They were already knocking it out of the ballpark, but now they're really, kind of stepping it up a notch. In other areas that if they were not necessarily, let's say with Brahmastra, RRR obviously with action, they'd always been good with action, but we
Hmm.
are seeing them bring those particular movies even more accessible to us on platforms like Netflix and other streaming places as well, and even in the theaters. So there's so much that we
Hmm.
can do. It is something to be concerned with, I think, for a lot of these writers. But one other interesting thing now, I didn't get a chance to ask you about this, Lorena, because, well, I just didn't get a chance to ask you. It had to do with Guardians of the Galaxy. Now, it's actually twofold. It
Okay.
has to do with the fact that you and well, I can't say enough about Super Mario. I think most people cannot say enough about Super Mario and the performance that Super Mario has given us.
Hmm.
And of course, it's broken another record. And it says the latest box office record, I think. And I'm pretty sure it says something like that. It's earned $500 million domestically, which is a big deal. That's a lot of money for any film. But
Hmm.
for them to do that, it's a huge accomplishment there. You can just kind of see here. It's so adorable looking. Um, and it says, while it's true that they have earned $1 billion 3 weeks ago, and in record, it was so fast, Lorena, enough to make your head spin.
Yeah.
Now they crossed the $500 million domestic box office mark, and it's a huge deal. It says it puts in discussion with such record-breaking films as Avengers Endgame, Avatar, and Top Gun Maverick, one of only 19 films ever to reach that success.
Wow.
Yeah, it is quite spectacular. And of course, one of the actors in this film happens to be in another film that is incredibly successful right now. You and I
Hmm.
can't stop singing the praises of Super Mario, and I think it's evident by the box office and by the continued bank that it seems to be earning, that Super Mario isn't going anywhere. But what I wanted to also mention, and of course we can't ignore, is the most recent Marvel film that is here, Guardians of the Galaxy. And I'm sorry about the pop-ups. On its
Okay.
now it's pretty much its opening weekend, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, best Super Mario in the weekend box office of the Pratts. Now, this of
I love that title.
yeah, of course this is very cute. We're kind of having fun with this, but this is
Hmm.
another situation where we find actors who are in billion-dollar films, also concurrently in other movies. And of course, it's Chris Pratt here, who's the main star in Guardians of the Galaxy as Star Lord, or one of, let's say, I'm not going to say he's the main topic of the movie, but let's just say he's one of the major characters in the film, Star
Hmm.
Lord in the film. It has made a substantial amount of money already, Lorraine. I think 285 million or something like that. That's a nice chunk of cash.
Wow.
Lorraine, have you seen Gardens of the Galaxy Volume 3?
I have not seen it. I have not seen it yet. Life has kind of been inconvenient at the moment. So eventually I do plan to see it. Actually, I won't say eventually. I'm actually going to see it tomorrow.
Well, this is not going to be a discussion about what the film is about at all. This is not what where I'm going with this today. And I don't want to, I'm not doing spoilers or anything like that. In fact, for a while, because the film just came out and people need, they need time to get to the
Yes.
theater to see this film. It's literally been out, what, if maybe 5 or 6 days. So
Hmm.
it hasn't really had time for everybody to go out and see it. But I did see the film. And what I was going to say about the film is that it was fantastic. And like Mikey Lito, like Tom Jr. Jackson, who's seen the film, a bunch of other
Hmm.
people who in the chat who've seen the film, many of them are saying that it's the best Marvel movie since Avengers Endgame. Some people even said that the
Hmm.
story arcs were thrilling and heartbreaking. I think that's what Tom Jr. Jackson said. I personally found that, I normally Guardians of the Galaxy is, they got some comedic parts in it. This one was much more serious, Lorena. This was as serious as what Thor Love and Thunder should have been like.
Hmm.
And I think you know where I'm going with the cancer and all that
Yeah.
sort of stuff.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
The storyline in this is so serious and so in depth that, Guardians of the Galaxy, I feel like they've gone up just a notch in the
Mm-hmm.
level of storytelling and the level of importance. It really was amazing and entertaining. And Lorena, this wasn't anything that I think a program like Chat GPT could write. And you and I have been talking about this. Some of these shows we've been watching, some of the things we've been seeing, the writing hasn't been that great. And I had said, I bet you over the past few years that some of these writers are using a program to help them write.
Mm-hmm.
This was just my gut feeling, Lorena, because some of what we were seeing was not quite right. Some of the relationships between people, the way people speak to one another, it didn't make any sense. And
Mm-hmm.
you've often said that it's almost as if these writers didn't have experience, just even in general things. But I also think that the language and the way that the language was used and the behavior and the relationships that we're seeing on screen perhaps may have been computer generated and not actual language from a legitimate writer. This is my theory. I don't know if it's true, but Lorena,
Mm-hmm.
there is absolutely no way, and I know people have disputed me on this. There is after you see this film, there is absolutely no way Chat GPT or any kind of AI could have written this level of complexity and of heartfelt love. And I mean, it was so incredible that you could see, obviously Gunn wrote this was a labor of love. It was heartfelt. And there are even moments where there's no words. You can just see pictures or the video of what's happening, and you don't need
Mm-hmm.
anyone to explain to you what's happening here. It is heartbreaking. And I still, as I said to
Mm-hmm.
someone else, I can't stop thinking about this film. I I honestly, Lorena, I wasn't expecting to be taken down this road, and I
Mm-hmm.
can't wait for you to see it. And next week we will talk about. We're going to do our review of it, maybe on here or something, or maybe on your channel, wherever we do it. But Lorena, when you see this, you're going to understand why it's made $250 million. Is it going to make $1 billion? I have no idea, but it's going to make money. Like, it's making money, and it's
Mm-hmm.
saying that it I think it outperformed Super Mario. That's fine. Super Mario's already made $1 billion. So as far as I'm concerned, Super Mario is a huge success. I wouldn't be surprised if Guardians made bank. I don't know whether it's going to make $1 billion, but it's so good, Lorena, that I wouldn't be surprised if it made it. Now, Chris Pratt happens to be in the Super Mario movie as well. It's a
Mm-hmm.
huge accomplishment for him. What a success for Chris Pratt, who must be like on the top of the world right now, with his success in both films. And there was some controversy with him kind of being in Mario. I didn't have a problem with it. But
I didn't either.
yeah, I don't know why anybody would even care. He's a fantastic, very attractive man. I could watch him in a million movies, to be honest with you. And here it says, meet the new boss, same as the old boss. Chris Pratt has defeated Chris Pratt at the box office. It's really very funny. To be honest with you, his charm, the charm of all the actors in both films. These casts, Lorena, are bar none, just so incredibly well casted, such great chemistry, regardless of the situation, the personal situations between them.
Mm-hmm.
It really is second to none, Lorena. I was so impressed with this. I think that another very important thing about this film is that it seemed to complete. Sometimes you would get a trilogy. This felt
Right.
like the end of a trilogy, so to speak. And I was like, oh, okay. And I don't normally get that feeling from every trilogy that we've gotten in the past. This one, I
Mm-hmm.
got that from. It made sense. It flowed well. It was really amazing to see what was done, and it was nothing in it was wasted. There was nothing wasted. There was nothing that didn't fit. There was no unforced errors. I gotta say, it was just unbelievable. So I can't wait for you to see it. Um, there is a lot of expectation to Guardians of the Galaxy. Now that I know, for me personally, it's delivered. But were you concerned that Guardians might not hit the mark in certain areas?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Especially given how very underwhelming Marvel Phase 4, MCU, excuse me, MCU Phase 4 was. And especially with Quantum Mania kicking off, Phase 5, and how just not that great of a film I personally felt that it was. It wasn't like, say, it wasn't like Captain America Winter Soldier. Like that's the level of MCU, Endgame, especially Infinity War. Didn't feel like got that with Quantumania. So it's kind of why I have my eyebrow up with respect to Guardians of the Galaxy. And Guardians of the Galaxy, for me, when I first heard about it, I was like, it can't be that good. I've never freaking heard of this group ever. I'm like, who are they? I could care less.
Yeah.
And then when I saw Infinity War, and I'm seeing this group of people, and they just all I did was just laugh. I'm like, oh my God, they're just insane. Binge the second movie. Was looking forward to the third movie, but like I said, Quantumania dropped, and honestly, my enthusiasm to go out and see it as soon as it dropped was not there. So it was more of, let me wait. I'll get around to seeing it, but not like Super Mario Brothers, where not only was I there the night before the official opening, but actually went down to Universal to
Yes.
go and see it in 3D. That was completely different. I was excited about it. This one, it was kind of like I'm dragging my feet to go and see it. So I'm looking forward to seeing it, forming my own opinion about it, and letting folks know. I honestly hope that it is good, that it is definitely way better than what we got with Quantumania. And these are characters that I have grown literally to love and be attached to. And every time they would show up, in an MCU movie, it was just, a joy to watch. The trailer I loved. A trailer I couldn't get enough of, especially since that trailer dropped right after the Christmas special, which was freaking awesome. So hopefully, I certainly do hope that the film is good when I go see it tomorrow.
Absolutely. Lorraine, you're not going to be disappointed. And everybody in the chat who hasn't seen it, you're not going to be disappointed. Here it says, while Pratt was shutting naysayers up about his popular Mario movie, he also obliterated the notion. He obliterated the notion of superhero fatigue. The well-reviewed
Mm.
Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 shows viewers aren't tired of superhero movies, but understandably, they're tired of bad superhero movies.
Mm. I
Now,
don't know, but
well, it's something to think about. You and I have agreed on the fact that what we want is a good story.
absolutely.
And if you want a good story, guys, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is the best story I've seen in a long time. It's what Thor Love and Thunder could have been like. That
Mm.
level, although it is a very different story, very different range, it's what it could have been like. And I think you'll find, you and I and many people talked about how some things that were very serious in Thor Love and Thunder that should have been treated that way were not. Um,
Mhm.
and there isn't that problem here with this film. Certainly, they are known for having comedy between this incredible group of guardians, but they don't lose touch when you need to be serious, when something needs to be addressed in an adult way. And we are not we are not unintelligent, ignorant beings. We know when something rings true and when it doesn't.
Mhm.
Some of those treatments towards, you know, uh, Jane were, it just wasn't true. I mean, it wasn't realistic, and we don't have that experience here. So I think that's very important to point out. And I think for many people, you know, I'm just so eager to see what you're going to think about it, Lorena. But you know, I personally was pleasantly surprised. I'm not going to go ahead. People have been asking, well, does this mean that Marvel's back? I have no idea what this means. Honestly, Lorena, this Guardians always felt separate to me. It doesn't feel like they didn't pull in other groups from other movies. It didn't have that. Well, I've got to suddenly make sure this person appears because their film is coming up. It
Yeah.
that was not done like that. They didn't go ahead and pervert the film with, you know, pointless appearances and, oh, look, it's so and so, and oh wow, it's this guy. And
Yeah,
um
exactly. It's just them, which is one of the reasons why, why I like Guardians of the Galaxy. And to answer the question out there, is Marvel back? I said, well, let's kind of think about this because James Gunn writes his characters very, very differently. And you can tell that the characters are crafted very well. Their individual relationships, which is the crux of why the Guardians of the Galaxy movies are so beloved and so much fun, is because of those relationships. So he writes those characters very well. Is Marvel back?
I
Jury's out on that. But I do know that since DC now has James Gunn, it's going to be interesting things coming from him.
Yeah, it had a very different tone. Sorry, a very different tone. And that was actually a good thing because there's nothing wrong with having a different tone, a different sector.
Oh yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
it creates variety. It certainly does allow somebody like Chris Pratt to express his talents. Where I found that in Quantumania, the characters were not allowed to go to that level. But in Guardians, the characters really could excel, especially in three, for under certain situations here. And Lorena, I really have to say, I'm still, my heart, it broke my heart, and I can't stop thinking about this
Mm.
film. So it's going to stick with me. It's not going anywhere. I didn't know I was going to be so touched by the film. And that's it. I'm not going to say it completely rattled me, but let's just
Mhm.
say it really um, affected me. And that's what a film is supposed to do. You come out of the film and you're like, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. And that was something that I didn't know what this film was going to even be about, Lorena, because I like to be surprised. I did watch a little bit of the trailers and everything, but I'm like, no, I'm not going to watch
Mhm.
anything. I'm going to go in there. I want to go in there and be like, wow, oh my gosh, you know, this was even this was even as I think someone in the chat, and everybody's making very good chat comments. Someone said that it's a lot darker than the first two, but I'm not going to say anything else. I don't want to.
That's pretty much what we got from watching the trailer. You could tell that it was not. And then the trailer started out like you would expect Guardians of the Galaxy to start out, but then you saw throughout the trailer that it was definitely going to be more of a serious tone than the previous 2.
Yeah, and I think sometimes it's okay to do a film like that. I think that I wouldn't say that a chance was taken out. I felt like this was the right time to do it. Sometimes the timing suggests that you need something that has a more serious tone, and that's what we didn't get from Thor. That would have been a serious as heck film where we Thor: Love and Thunder, where we would have been so shocked and broken from what
Mm,
had to go through, losing what I thought maybe might be the love of his life, right? Um,
right, uh-huh.
this should have been the most groundbreaking thing that he's ever had to experience because there was nothing he could do. He would have just had to accept the outcome there. And we were kind of robbed of that, I think, a little bit. But they wanted to treat it a certain way. That's how they treated it. Some people liked it. I felt that that tone certainly was not right for it. But the tone for Guardians of the Galaxy 3 was spot on for me. And congratulations to Chris Pratt for really bringing it home and showing us that you can do a film like this. Even when it's heartbreaking, you can do it with style. He's a great actor. I really think that he shows his ability and range even in
Mhm.
this. Because as you know, he's still hurting. He's a character that's in pain. We know a lot of what's been going on. The Christmas special was kind of about that, right? The Christmas special where he wasn't that happy, and his sister said, "Hey, I want to do something to cheer him up for Christmas. We've all gone through stuff
Mhm.
like this."
Yeah.
That's totally real. We can all relate to a scenario like this. Some people asked, "Do you have to see Guardians 1 and 2 and the Christmas special?" I said,
Mhm.
"You don't have to. You could actually watch this
Mm.
film independently, as far as I'm concerned. Like, you would see that you
Mhm.
can tell that they are this group that's together, but it is
Right.
actually watchable without even seeing a whole bunch of stuff. Although the Christmas special does set up nowhere. Is it that where they are? Nowhere, or
Yeah. Mhm.
and I get that, they live in nowhere and everything. It's important, but I didn't feel like it was 100% a prerequisite. That's maybe the only kind of thing, is that since it's on one particular, I think you can only get it on Disney Plus. You can't order it from Amazon, right? The Christmas special. I can't remember, but the point is that a lot of people are like, well, I don't have Disney Plus. It would have been great if it was on Amazon, and I'm like, yeah, I understand that. But
Mhm.
even without having watched the Christmas special, you can enjoy Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I don't remember everything in the Christmas special. So, technically speaking, for me, I don't think it was necessarily a prerequisite. I think you
Mhm.
can go right from Volume 2 directly to Volume 3 and still enjoy this film, still have a great time. Understand that it has, that it's a heavy film, and you're getting your money's worth. I think people are going to go back to see this. Lorena, I think people will see this in 3D. And the other thing I was going to say is, some of these fight scenes were out of this world. The
Really?
imagination, the talent that I
Uh-huh.
saw in this really was amazing. There's no wasted time. There's no crazy, nutty graphics. At least I'm not a graphics expert, but let's just say that from what I saw, the special effects looked very, very good. And also,
Mhm.
we didn't have any kind of wasted characters. There was no kind of incidental. There was no weird looking characters. There was no more. Is it Modoc, or what was that character from Quantumania? The one that they had a
The one
problem.
that looked like Annoying Orange? Yeah,
Yes,
well, correction, Annoying Orange actually did it better. Yeah, MODOK.
absolutely. There's no Modoc there. Um, there's no wasted time in this film. Every moment means something. If you blink, you miss something, honestly.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it's one of those films. The colors are perfect. The balance is perfect. A lot of what you're seeing looks realistic. So you're not kind of thrown into something that feels in like an odd dimension. It feels balanced. Things feel feel right relative to size and dimension. Not easy
Mhm.
to do when you're talking about aliens and different realms and stuff. It was honestly, I was blown away by it. So I did just want to mention that. I'm not saying anything else about it. It is worth a trip to the theater. I know some of you are going to wait till it comes onto streaming, which is fine.
Mhm.
But guys, it is worth a trip to the theater, I think. Honestly, I think you will enjoy it. Lorena, I can't wait. Next week, you and I are going to talk a little bit more about what's gone on in this film and what we
All
think
right.
we got right. It's still a little too early to do that. I don't want to, like I said, there's a lot of people who are like, well, I'm seeing it next weekend. There's still
Mhm.
time to kind of see it over the next week. But certainly, I was so happy with what they did here, Lorena. Congratulations to Chris Pratt for doing the double tap to do. He's like, I hit it once, but I got the double tap on the machine. Ching. It's like cash is flowing. Chris Pratt has rocked Hollywood as far as I'm concerned, and it is great. Hollywood's love story for a superhero, Hollywood's love story for a video game movie. We are very, very lucky indeed, Lorena. Now, the last thing I want to talk about has to do with a very well-known actor. Gee,
Hmm.
one of the most famous actors in the world, actually, a world-renowned actor by the name of Richard Dreyfuss. And many of you guys already know who Richard Dreyfuss is, but for the sake of
Hmm.
saying this, he is a very well-known actor who is famous and has made many. Movies. I don't know how many, but he certainly is
That.
somebody. He's certainly somebody who is well known in the industry. And recently, he had some comments talking about inclusion and inclusion
Hmm.
requirements in films. And a lot of what he's expressed, I think, is valid. Here, they're kind of showing. I don't want to show that. Is valid comments, Lorena. And I think it's really a very interesting comment to make, especially at this moment, where he says that these Oscar inclusion requirements make me vomit. Now, I think it's interesting where it says here, no one should be telling me as an artist that I have to give in to the latest, most current idea of what morality is, the actor said in a recent interview. And I think that is very important. From what I understand, he's traditionally known to be somewhat more towards the left. I could care less whether he's left or right or center. I don't care. Doesn't make a difference to me what people want to, which way they want to go, or if they don't give a shit. It doesn't make a difference to me personally.
Hmm.
I understand. I think it's interesting, though, however, that Richard Dreyfuss, who is, kind of um, someone who used to be very or used to be considered very liberal, is really just kind of fed up with this. Here it says he was on firing line. Now, Margaret Hoover, I guess she's a descendant of the Hoovers. I've watched her show a lot. I watch her show, and she has
Hmm.
a lot of different types of people on her show. But I didn't know she was going to have Richard Dreyfuss on. She's amazing, and she's on PBS. And PBS, it would be technically speaking a government funded and publicly funded television program that is somewhat biased, and they admit they have bias. But she
Hmm.
is the one person on the show who mentions that, I have an altering view to everyone else on this program. And so I think it's great that she has decided to have someone on to talk about these issues and how it's kind of affecting Hollywood. Um, and here where they're talking about it being an art form, um and makes money, but it is an art, and no one should be telling me as an artist all this stuff. I think it's very
Hmm.
interesting that he decided to do that. Here it says, and of course it's been a few years now that these categories have been there. He won in 1978 for leading role in The Goodbye Girl. And added, and what are we risking? Are we really risking hurting people's feelings? You can't legislate that, and you have to let life be life. Earlier today, earlier in this broadcast, we were talking about Mahershala Ali, who, as we
Hmm.
said, obviously he's the new Blade, but you and I were talking about him, and I had said that he'd won for Moonlight and for, what is the name of that other movie where he plays a musician? And in the South in the 60s, or I think it's the 60s. And he won an Academy Award for that. He won 2 Academy Awards in a row. And at no point did anyone say this is such a victory for inclusion and stuff. Um, you and I have often said that it was something that would happen organically. I think it's interesting, too, that he talks about how he felt he had to defend a performance in Othello. Um,
Hmm.
and he says, he says he played a black man brilliantly. Dreyfuss told Hoover, Lawrence Olivier's performance. Am I being told that I will never have a chance to play a black man? Now, this is very interesting. This is very interesting, Lorena, because there's a lot of black characters that are fantastic, and a lot of actors who are not black who want to play these roles. And,
Absolutely,
and I, yeah,
especially when it comes to Shakespeare. Especially when it comes to Shakespeare. You know who else played the character of Othello, but they flipped the script on it? Patrick Stewart. they flipped the script that instead of Othello being a black man, instead, and society at large being white, they flipped that to Othello was white, and the majority of the population in that play was black. Othello Othello is like, King Lear. That's like a top tier. You get to play that. You don't care what you have to do. Okay, well maybe you do. So you can get that particular role. And I'll ask another question. Was Othello played by a black man originally when Shakespeare had it first performed? Does anyone know that?
I don't know, Lorena. It's a good question, and I think when it was originally performed, no one cared about that. That
No.
wasn't the focus of the story. It
No,
was
it was social commentary on what was going on in England at that point in time.
yes, and that's very important. Of course, at that time, men played women's roles, right? So
Yes.
so
Yes, they did. They
um,
did, and this was not, sorry, I mean to cut you off,
no, no, you didn't.
but the people claiming that Olivier did blackface. Blackface is a dehumanizing, stereotype.
Hmm.
The fact that he did that to play a role for, a role that was based on a black man, that's not the same thing. And I really think that that's just a non argument. I think it's just grasping at straws. I think it's just giving some people something to complain about when there really isn't anything there to it. It's not like it's Al Jolson. Okay, big
Agreed.
difference.
And I agree with this sentence 100, what you said it 100% about this first sentence that we're looking at, where they claim it as blackface. It's not. He had makeup on. It's the same similar makeup to me, as far as I'm concerned, as what we just watched on you and I watching I and Retro Nergirl watching. I'm trying to remember the name of the movie, and someone actually mentioned it.
But Tropic Thunder. Oh man, that is one
Mhm.
of my favorite movies.
Yeah. You, Retro Nerd Girl, and myself did a watch party on your channel where we watched Tropic Thunder. And of course, Robert Downey Jr. did a stellar job playing, a black character. It was not blackface at all. He played it with dignity and respect. And to make it even more interesting, there was another black character in the cast who also kind of, had a laugh at it. It was really very good. And I think it was important to show that in the film. He did a wonderful performance. Here, he goes on to say about uh, is someone also being told that if they're not Jewish, they shouldn't play the Merchant of Venice? Are we crazy? Do we know what that art is art? This is so patronizing. It's so thoughtless and treating people like children. Now, I also want to go a little bit further with this, especially
Okay.
when it comes to Shakespeare. You and I both love Shakespeare. Many of you in the chat also love Shakespeare. Is when they change some of the language in Shakespeare to make it more sensitive.
Oh God, no.
And I'm not a fan of
Mm.
that. I want the plays
Neither am I.
preserved because it's written in a certain style for a reason. It's just like going back and changing, Tom Sawyer and removing certain language in it. Or Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn and removing certain language in it because they find it to be offensive or has to be changed or whatever. So I think it is very interesting how a lot of these intentions, really are ridiculous. I think it is treating people like children. And I think that
I
people who
agree.
continue to say, we really are not going to, support this. We know it's not fair. He followed up, it says Hoover followed up by asking about Close Encounters of obviously Richard Dreyfuss is known for that role he plays in Close Encounters.
Yeah, I remember that.
Um,
Yeah.
and Richard Dreyfuss says there's a difference between the question of representation and who is allowed to represent other groups. It's two different things. And the case of blackface, I don't know why they're calling it that. As I said, you and I don't agree. It's just
Yeah.
in makeup playing a different ethnicity explicitly in this country, given the history and delivery and the sensitive around Black racism. I don't find it racist. And like I said, I haven't seen anybody in blackface doing that. So I think that that's just written incorrectly and described and defined incorrectly. But
In
um,
a very ignorant definition as well, because it doesn't truly reflect what blackface truly is and why it was so insulting. It's just like, oh, it's blackface. Oh yeah, we'll just lump it in with slavery and sensitivities and all of that without the real education as to what that term is. So I really that's just a very ignorant statement.
Agreed. And it also says that Dreyfuss says there shouldn't be because it's patronizing, because it says we're so fragile that we can't have our feelings hurt. We have to anticipate having our feelings hurt, our children's feeling hurt. Yeah, we have to say this is going to hurt someone or this will be interpreted the wrong way. We don't know how to stand up and bop the bully in the face. That is also very interesting.
He that is so right. And I'm kind of sensitive about this because for my members live stream, we did a watch party of Blazing Saddles from 1974, and that movie came out I think like about 10 years after the civil rights movement. Everyone was fair game in that, saying stuff that you would never hardly see these days because people are too sensitive. But folks had to learn how to stand up, how to outsmart people, how to, embarrass them by their own, their own ignorance. And it's just ridiculous how with these quote unquote diversity quotas, they're all about trying to protect people's feelings or be outraged on behalf of a group that never even asked them to be. And it's gotten away from the true essence of what this is supposed to be. This is supposed to be about art, actors and their craft. So now basically you're telling them how they should do their craft. So no wonder the likes of Richard Dreyfuss, and God bless him, because I'm glad he said it. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, I agree, Lorena. I think that's the end of the article. There's actually, guys, you can go onto Hollywood Reporter and listen to the whole article. You can also find this is the Hollywood Reporter reporting on the firing line interview that Richard Dreyfuss
Hmm.
did with Miss Hoover. But you can probably go to PBS and watch that particular interview she does with him. There
Hmm.
may be more to the interview. I did kind of see it, featured while I was flipping through channels. My mother watches a lot of PBS, incidentally. But I do think it is very interesting to kind of look at this. And I think, since it's been 2 years that this thing has been instituted, and right now it doesn't seem like that's going to change. We don't know
Hmm.
what's going to happen in the future. Some of that that stipulation as to who qualifies and who doesn't, I think will change. He talked about how a lot of films will miss out, and clearly that's obvious.
Hmm.
There's going to be a lot of films that will miss out because they either can't meet these guidelines. There are some films that, depending upon what the film is about, you cannot go ahead and appease these demands. And I had thought by now they could have gone ahead and said, hey, let's start some programs, get some more variety of people in there, but it doesn't necessarily have to be an insertion policy. In other
Hmm.
words, people don't have to be inserted into films because you feel like there needs to be that person in that film. A lot of people are very uncomfortable with that. I'm very uncomfortable with that notion. I want to be, seeing characters that are important because they're important, not necessarily because they're a specific group or ethnicity. So this is something to think about. And
Hmm.
I think Richard Dreyfuss going ahead and saying this, it was refreshing.
Very much so. And I'm so glad that he said that. He's like, He's like, the one old cantankerous relative that's just like, you know what? Let's get real. All right. I'm sick and tired. It's like they just say exactly what it is. And it's something that needs to be said. And the younger kids are like, dang, I didn't even know about that. Okay, cool. Yeah. So I'm really glad that he came out and said this, especially an actor of his character, and especially since I just saw Jaws recently.
Yes, yes, you did the watch party on your channel, guys. Check out Lorena's channel. She did a fantastic watch party on Saturday night for Jaws. Obviously, one of Richard Dreyfuss's well-known movies that we all love. Certainly, something that we always see on the beach, as I say with Tom Jr. Jackson. It's definitely a Northeast beach movie. They show it in the summer, as Tom said, and then the kids are scared of the water, but
Go to the water.
it's a classic. And Richard Dreyfuss,
I used to laugh. It's like, oh, just people from the Northeast scared of the water. And then they set Jaws 3 in Florida.
but certainly, I think we're going to see more of this going forward.
Hmm.
Right now, Hollywood is a little vulnerable. They're still trying to figure out, they got slammed by this streaming thing. They got slammed by the fact that they're not getting as much funding from advertisers. They thought they were going to be able to throw in commercials and that would solve the problem. Make the streaming like a network program. That
Hmm.
didn't necessarily go as well. It's very interesting how all of this is playing out many years later. Of course, many of us, you and I, have been streaming for the past few years, and we've
Hmm.
witnessed the transition from, maybe not overnight, but a lot of the transition from
Hmm.
network TV to these streamers. And now we're seeing a strike that kind of feels like it has a lot to do with streaming. In
Oh, it does.
Jaws or Close Encounters, both anonymous. We saw, I think it was Jaws that you did it, but honestly,
Yes.
what are they going to say about Close Encounters? That the aliens are offensive because they look a certain way? These are
Oh,
all sorts of
Lord.
things that I'm really concerned. Mary Sullivan says she watched it. The interview was after the coronation coverage, and she loved it, guys.
Ah,
Check out
okay.
PBS. PBS has gotten a little bit of flack, as I said, because they are funded by the United States government, but also by viewers like you. But also keep in mind that they do tend to be somewhat more of a liberal station.
Yeah,
They
they
admit
they
that.
they do.
And during a lot of their election coverage, they were very liberal. But I also think they're a very professional station. But I'm not going to go ahead and say that they don't have biases, just like any other news organization. So,
True.
however, they do bring excellent programming. Um, they have a variety that I have never seen on any other network. So there is that. And many of us grew up watching things like Sesame Street and, of course, Reading Rainbow, things like that PBS has brought
Mhm.
us. Um,
Finding your roots.
Finding Your Roots with Dr. Lewis Gates,
Yes.
um, and many, many more things like this, Lorena, excuse me, that PBS is on the forefront of doing. So, and of course, excuse me, Margaret
Mhm.
Hoover with her kind of standalone show where
Mhm.
she proudly presents the alternative view. Good for you, Margaret Hoover. Thank you for bringing this interview with Richard Dreyfuss to the forefront. I wish that he represented more of a shift of what was happening, Lorena. I'm kind of praying that we're going to see a shift of people who are saying, no, we're not going to adhere to this out of protest, and even just out of, not even being able to do this. One movie I would like to mention are the Banshees of Inisherin, where it's primarily an Irish cast.
Mhm.
It would not have been appropriate for them to go ahead and insert a character that might not have been present there at the time. And they weren't even thinking about inclusion in that. We want to see Irish people in Ireland. So that's something to think about. And going forward, I hope that this does not become something that stays on the books. I hope it gets rewritten, readjusted, and just, let the natural transition of the variety of programming we see go through its natural course. As
Mhm.
I said, Mahershala Ali won 2 Oscars, and no one cared about inclusion and diversity when he won them. So, Moonlight was a spectacular film that couldn't be ignored. You're lucky when you get to cast in a role like that, and even
Mm.
luckier when you win. But he got it, and he was not an insertion. It was not. It was nothing like that. Yeah. So, Lorena, thank you for joining me tonight. Um,
Welcome.
it's such a pleasure to have you here. Thank you, everybody in the chat as well. Guys, make sure you check out Lorena Creole's channel. I'm looking for the link. It is in here. Lorena, where can people find you?
Well, folks, you can find me on Twitter. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Twitch. And of course, you can find me here on YouTube doing various videos, live streams here on Ladies with the PGS with her live streams on my channel, also by myself or with others, or a lot of times with her as well. And let's see, this week, where can you find me this week? Yeah, Wednesday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern on Fatal J's channel. Check out the Dark Council, the six-man team consisting of Abu Nas, Mark with the C, Fatal J, Demanjanai, Lord Callus, and Drunk 3PO, where we bring you our brand of pop culture news, social commentary, music. We're just, bringing you that blurred flavor, as I like to tell people. As I like to tell people, we love everybody. Just showing up at our stream Thursday, of course, 5 p.m. Eastern. Toxic Male Appreciation on my channel with her, actually on my Twitch channel. We are going to be discussing Vin Diesel. Okay. Yes, we are definitely going to be talking about Vin Diesel, a little bit about the Fast and Furious, but mostly talking about Vin Diesel. And at 6 p.m. Eastern, please check me out on WDW Pro's channel live. So you definitely don't want to miss that. And I forgot, Wednesday, 4 p.m. Eastern, I will be appearing on Valiant Renegade's channel. We are going to be breaking down the Disney quarterly earnings
Oh my gosh.
call. So you definitely do not want to miss that. And
Yes.
Saturday, 10 a.m., I'm going to be doing a stream live from Disney's Animal Kingdom Park. Going to get to see the Lion King show live. Crossing Rooms. We're going to see the new Lion King show, and also my favorite thing, visiting the primate habitat, because there's some brand new baby gorillas that have been born and they're out there in the habitat. So I'm seeing them. This is the last time I'm seeing them until October, because it's going to be hot as I don't know what. So definitely going to have fun hanging out with the animals in a gorgeous setting that is a theme park unlike any other. So please join me for that. And thank you for
Absolutely.
being here.
Absolutely, Lorena. Guys, please like and subscribe to Lorena's channel. As you guys already know, you can find me here on the Burnettwork or on Positive Fandom. But I do stream a lot with Lorena for our Toxic Male Appreciation Show, anime stuff coming up, watch parties, you name it. You can also find me on the 1/6 Scale Man Network for Uncivilized Scoundrels. And of course, I'm going to be doing Midnight Musings on Friday. Guys, do check out my show on my channel, Positive Fandom, Sunday Brunch, where we do all the parlay in the fandom. And guys, right after this show, here at 6 o'clock on the Burnettwork, I'm premiering Cat's Corner, a new show that I did with Catherine. It is recorded, but I will be in the chat, guys, with Catherine. Catherine has an extensive physical media collection. It starts exactly at 6. So thank you, Lorena. I'm so excited to bring this to you. Catherine has an unbelievable collection, and I can't wait for you all to see the reviews she's doing on so many movies. She's an expert. We're lucky to have her. And Lorena, thank you again. It's always such a pleasure streaming with you.
Likewise, I love streaming with you. You're my wing woman, you know
Yeah,
that.
you're my wing woman. So, and guys, always remember, and Tom Jr. Jackson, we are all good people. Sean, Stephen Beam, you are also in the chat. Thank you so much. The moderators means a lot to us, guys. Always remember, no matter where you are in the galaxy, always remember to please be kind. Take care, everybody.